Welcome to Abuse Exposed, a podcast about the secret of abuse. Each episode, we deliver intriguing Christian and personal experiences on abuse and how to overcome it. The content is not intended to be a substitute for professional mental or medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified mental health provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical or mental condition. Now, here's your host, live from Texas, ISpeakMotivate.
Hello. This is ISpeakMotivate, and I am so excited to be with you guys for episode 14. It is part 2 of our vulnerability talk regarding that question that I had. Why do people inflict pain on others when they also went through childhood trauma and they know how that pain feels? I said, you guys, that I was going to talk to my therapist and talk it out, and that quote that I did find was saying that empaths, they identify with the victim, and the narcissists, they identify with the predator or abuser. And it's just crazy. So I was just talking it out. I was with my therapist. I was like, okay, so what would make somebody, identify with a predator? And so we're just talking, and I'm like, okay, so is that a way that they can control their environment so they try to attack anybody before anybody attacks them, and so they end up ruining all the relationships around them? And she was saying, yes, they do need some sense of control. I also am here on goodtherapy.com, and they have a wonderful article here, and it gives great examples of two people can go through the same trauma, but they have two different effects, which again is helping me so much on my journey. I feel like the way I heal is understanding all types of ways, learning and understanding, so I don't feel like this crazy person. So basically, it says here on goodtherapy.org that people with NPD and codependency often have similar childhood experiences. They simply adopted different ways of adapting. For example, say a pair of twins grow up neglected. One sibling may develop a low self-esteem and learn they are only worth something if they are useful to others. They may grow into a codependent adult who is used to sacrificing their own needs. The second sibling might develop an inflated self-esteem as a protective mechanism. The neglect makes the child feel unimportant, so as a narcissistic adult, they may crave constant validation to prove their self-worth, and that's why we merge. And so when we get into these abusive romantic relationships, or we're with, you can't choose your family, and you're in these abusive relationships with your family, and due to the trauma, you're on the codependent side, you're just constantly trying to prove that you're good enough, and that, how I prove that I'm not good enough is being totally selfless, and making sure they know that I'll do anything in the world for them. And then the narcissists, they thrive off of that behavior because they have a need of being seen as superior because they never got that as a child. So they're making sure that now, since I'm adult, I'm going to have control, and you're not going to do it to me. I'm going to do it to you first type situation. So it brought a lot of clarity. It brought a lot of clarity to me. And I'm just excited about it as I learn. And so let's get deeper into this here. So a codependent and a narcissist can get together, and it can quickly become unhealthy. And the codependent person may try to live vicariously through their larger-than-life partner. When their partner doesn't show enough gratitude for their service, the codependent person may feel resentment. Meanwhile, the narcissistic person often exploits their partner's people-pleasing tendencies for their own narcissistic supply. As their ego grows, their demands may increase until the codependent person eventually burns out. Even if they develop an abusive relationship, neither partner may try to leave. Both people may try to stay in an unhealthy situation for the fear of being alone. Without help, this dynamic can grow increasingly toxic, Now, we're going into the part of the article that says, can codependency and narcissism overlap? Narcissism and codependency aren't always opposites. They desire to feel needed. It's not that different from the desire to feel important. While many studies find lower rates of narcissism among people with codependency, some actually found higher rates of narcissism among those with codependent traits. A person who is codependent in one situation might be narcissistic in another. For instance, a person may become codependent in their marriage, serving their spouse's every need, yet that same person may feel an unending need for respect and praise from their children, causing them to manifest narcissistic tendencies. In some cases, an abusive person may try to gaslight a codependent partner into believing they are narcissistic. The abuser may sabotage any show of self-confidence by calling their partner egotistical. Typical acts of self-care, such as taking days off or spending time with friends, may be labeled selfish. The codependent person may believe these accusations and try to fix a relationship by ignoring their own needs. A person isolated from loved ones who might offer a more objective view is likely to falsely believe they are a narcissist. The fact that all people display narcissistic or codependent traits on occasion can make it even more difficult for a person to decide if they're narcissistic, codependent, or both. Now, I'm really excited about this article in the therapy. I had therapy today at 10 a.m. Well, actually 9 a.m. because I switched spots. But nevertheless, talk through it. And I feel like the more knowledge that I get, the closer I feel that I'm getting the healing that I needing, And my thing is now, growing and healing, it's like, I want to know why, you know what I'm saying? And getting this education assists me with that. But also healing gives me the feeling of no matter how much knowledge I get on what narcissism is or, what happened to them in their childhood, is not to excuse their abusive behavior. So as I'm gaining an understanding, I'm leaning out of that codependency phase of, I should be the savior for them and to be there and make sure they get the therapy they need in order to be a good daughter, to be a good girlfriend or boyfriend. That's the things we have to know. It is not our fault, regardless of how horrible their childhood was or previous relationships were, we are now responsible for that. Even as we get more and more information on the psychology and everything of it, we still can't excuse that behavior, but it does give you clarity on how to move forward. Because let me tell you this, just like you're gaining help and getting education on what's going on with you and trying to make changes to learn healthy behaviors, narcissists can do the same thing. However, they refuse to because of their ego. And it's unfortunate, but in life we all make choices, and our choice shouldn't be dependent upon their choices, and we're curving our whole life to fit what they need because they refuse to be healed. Because at the end of the day, you will become their slave and very unhappy and have resentment, and you don't want that type of negativity in your life anymore. Now, codependency and narcissism therapy can help. Codependency and narcissism can become pathological when they undermine a person's quality of life or cause the person to harm others. It may be time to seek help if you show the following signs: a history of relationships in which abuse has been present, difficulty feeling close to others, feelings of emptiness or low self-esteem, feeling as if your identity depends on what others think of you, feeling like others don't fully appreciate you or acknowledge your importance, feeling like you are never properly thanked for all you have given up. A therapist can help people with narcissism or codependency understand the root of their insecurities. In therapy, you can learn how to replace flawed coping mechanisms with healthier behaviors. Talking through your experiences can help you access to new ways of thinking and being. Therapy offers compassion, not judgment. No matter where you are in your relationship or how much you have struggled in your life, the right therapist can help. Find a therapist skilled at helping people with your needs. What I do is I go on Psychology Today and I look up childhood trauma, narcissism. That's what I kind of try to get, PTSD type of therapist, people that's experiencing that, because it assists with the process of people having the history and the knowledge to deal with that type of situation, you know, and not have you go to a therapist that's like, for, you know, just general sadness or anxiety. For example, you're having problems at work. Cause that happened to me. First therapist I went to, she was very, very, very sweet, but it was more like if I had like, you know, a small disagreement in my marriage, having stress in marriage, or counseling, having a bad day at work, and figuring out my future type therapist. And that wasn't what I needed. I needed to heal. So I had to separate from that therapist, you know, in order to get the healing that I needed. And I felt so bad because I was the beginning of my journey from codependency. Because I'm like, will she be mad at me if I just leave and not come back? And so I felt really, really bad about that because my codependency was really, 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 really bad during the very first time. And so, but it was worth it to get over that fear of hurting a person's feelings, because I needed healing, and it was the right thing to do. And that's what happens a lot of times in codependency. It's things that you really, really need, but you're afraid to get it because you're like, okay,